In this video, I'll be sharing my experience and things you need to know about Subaru's safety system called Eyesight on a manual 2024 Subaru WRX. Before we get into it, I'm Sep, a car enthusiast making videos for other enthusiasts like yourselves, so feel free to subscribe to get your weekly dose of YouTube car content. For the first time ever, Subaru implemented Eyesight technology for the 2024 model year manual WRXs and higher trim manual BRZs. Or Zeds, whatever you want to call it. This feature is now standard, meaning you can't have a new WRX without it unless you buy a 2023 or 2022 year WRX. So if you're wondering if it's a good idea to buy a 2024 plus WRX with this new Eyesight tech, keep watching to find out more. Let's start off with the feature that has the most people curious: pre-collision braking. This system on the WRX is intended to help prevent and minimize collisions. It can help with rear-end collisions, avoiding crossing pedestrians and cyclists. Subaru even put the size of a pedestrian and cyclist that it can detect in the owner's manual. This system works through 2 stereo cameras on the front windshield, which I'll dive into a little later in the video. There are 3 stages to the Eyesight emergency braking system. First stage is the following distance warning. If the system determines there is a risk of a collision, an alert sounds with repeated short beeps, and an interruption screen is shown on the gauge display. It sort of sounds like your car has a missile lock on the car in front. The second stage is when Eyesight believes there is a high risk of a collision. Now this stage is where intervention begins. The interruption screen shows up on the gauge display and a warning is shown on the infotainment screen. Repeated short beeps will be heard as well. Now if the driver does not take any action right away to evade a collision, braking control may be activated and engine output may be controlled as well. The third stage is when Eyesight senses that there is an extremely high risk of collision, and the alert changes to a continuous beeping sound and strong braking control is activated. At this point, your car will brake until it is fully stopped, and another message will pop on your screen which will read, "Pre-collision braking system activated." One important thing to note is that if the car goes to the third stage of full emergency braking, it will stop the car regardless if you stall or not. Also, emergency braking will not operate if you're doing less than 1 km per hour or over 160 km per hour. So now that you know how it works, let's talk about my personal experience with it. I drive with Eyesight activated for the most part, and I've only witnessed the first stage, where I get a follow distance warning. I actually haven't felt the car brake for me before I was able to slow the car down myself. Now, I don't follow too closely to other cars, so maybe it's my driving habits, but the scenarios where I actually have the warning pop up include when I go overtake a slow car and Eyesight thinks I'm accelerating into the back of a vehicle, when I drive into the garage and it thinks I'm about to plow through my garage wall, and when someone cuts me off suddenly and just starts to brake. To turn off pre-collision braking is a little annoying because you have to go through a couple different screens in the infotainment, which I'm already not a huge fan of. I would much rather have a hard button somewhere, which the WRX does have room for. Going through the settings screens and turning it off, you will then see an off indicator light on your gauges. Now, if you don't want this feature on, you have to do this every single time you start up, because Subaru defaults pre-collision braking to on, no matter what. Last consideration about pre-collision braking is that it may activate in the following conditions. If your car is being towed, if it's being loaded on a carrier, if it's on a dyno, so make sure before you tune your car, you turn this feature off. Driving on a racetrack, imagine you're about to get your personal best and the car randomly just brakes at the finish line. Yeah, so turn it off if you're in any of those scenarios or if something can be misinterpreted as an obstacle. The next features that I actually really enjoy are adaptive cruise control and lane centering. These features are intended to help you when you drive on highways for a little more comfort on your commutes. This feature works from 30 km per hour to 145 km per hour, and if you're in 2nd to 6th gear. If there's no car in front of you, it will operate just like how a typical cruise control system would. But if you approach a car in the same lane as you, it will follow the car in front and maintain the distance and speed you are set at. There are 4 distances you can set through the steering wheel. The first one is around 30 meters. Second is 40 meters. Third is 50 meters. And fourth is 60 meters. For lane centering, you need to have adaptive cruise and pre-collision braking activated. Then you hit the lane centering button on your steering wheel, and a lane centering indicator goes from white to green. I only use this feature on the highway on straight and gentle curves, and you can't really take your hands off the steering wheel for too long without a warning. Here is an example of me going through a curve on the highway with lane centering doing its thing. It actually does a pretty good job keeping me in the lane. There are no sudden movements, and the steering input is fairly smooth. To turn these features off is super easy compared to pre-collision braking, as you just hit the same buttons you used to turn them on. The next feature is called lane departure, which might be a little misleading, as you might think, isn't that the same as lane centering? The difference is that it has two components. One is just a warning where if you go over your lane markings without signaling, a warning pops up, which I've witnessed mainly when I'm driving through a construction zone and road markings are all skewed. Just like pre-collision braking, you have to go through the infotainment screen to turn it off. Doing this will pop up a lane departure off warning indicator, so you have this alert that has a similar orange hue as a check engine light. The one nice thing about this warning being turned off is that it stays off when you restart your car, unlike the automatic braking feature. The second component is lane departure prevention, where the car will actually steer you back into your lane if it finds that you're about to go over your lane unintentionally. I actually have this feature turned off, and I've kept it off since the first week I've owned the car. I just didn't want the car to start correcting my steering at any given time. Sometimes I need to avoid something on the road within my lane, so I move off center a little bit. I just didn't want it to beep at me every time it happened. A couple more less invasive features include lane sway and lead vehicle alerts. Lane sway is a warning for when the vehicle detects that you are swaying in the lane. It will give you an alert that literally says, "Stay alert." Lead vehicle alert is one that I've only seen through a busy drive-thru, when I'm waiting in line and the car in front moves up and I don't move within a couple seconds. I guess it's a good feature to remind you that it's your turn in line. The last feature to cover is the Eyesight Assist Monitor. There are 4 LEDs that project colored patterns on the windshield depending on certain conditions. Here are all the conditions which I haven't memorized, so feel free to pause and read through, but essentially red means eyesight is taking action, yellow is a warning, and green means a feature is currently in use. That is my overview and experience with the features of Eyesight. Now keep in mind that I've only owned my WRX for a few months and I have yet to drive it in snowy weather, where visibility can get pretty bad and may impact the camera's performance. But I'll make an updated video in this upcoming winter season on how Eyesight performs in poor visibility. Moving on to the cameras, as humans have eyesight thanks to 2 eyes, Subaru has eyesight through 2 cameras. These cameras are what make eyesight work, and based on the owner's manual, they're actually more sensitive than you may think. For instance, besides completely blocking the cameras, other ways they may not work properly include, but not limited to, if the tire pressure is incorrect, the wrong size of tires are installed, suspension has been modified, headlights or fog lights have been modified, and if wheels are out of alignment. Now, a couple other limitations that I found in the manual include not installing any stickers or accessories in the gray area shown here on the windshield. So cool car group banners and even dash cams can't be put here. And you can't modify the hood or grille, as it may affect the camera view, which is another thing that limits you from modifying your car. So kind of a bummer. But at the end of the day, it's up to you if you want to do that or not. The next thing I want to bring up is how much does it cost to replace this windshield? And can I get it replaced anywhere else, or will Subaru force me to go with OEM because the cameras need to be calibrated a certain way? So I called my local dealer and this is what I found out. For an OEM replacement, it would be around $1,500. For aftermarket, it would be around the $500 to $800 mark, depending on the brand of windshield. Additionally, there is a $170 calibration fee for the Eyesight cameras once the windshield is installed. The next question I asked was if I was able to go to a local windshield replacement shop instead of them, and they said it would be fine as long as the shop was certified to do ADAS, or Advanced Driver Assistance Systems calibration. So then I called a windshield replacement place and they quoted me close to $600 including calibration, so way more reasonable in cost than directly from Subaru. Now the last but very important thing I need to share with you all is that the camera actually records data whenever pre-collision brake warnings or activations happen. Eyesight won't record audio, but it will record image data, distance from the vehicle in front, vehicle speed, steering wheel turning angle, lateral movement, accelerator pedal operation status, brake pedal operation status, clutch pedal operation status, shift lever position, odometer reading, data related to ABS, vehicle dynamics control, and traction control functions, and the time of the occurrence. To make matters worse, a Subaru can use this data for so-called research and development, and if a court order or other legally enforceable requests are made. To me, this is somewhat intrusive because it's gathering data and it can be used against you in some instances. This makes me dislike Eyesight to an extent. Not the features so much, but this information storing. Perhaps this is a mandated thing that all car companies are doing, but I wish Eyesight didn't do this. Now, talking about mandates, in December 2019, Japan set new regulations regarding automobile safety tech, which included mandatory collision mitigation braking systems for existing car models from December 2025 and onwards. So it makes sense why the 2024 WRX came with safety tech to adhere to this timeline. The US also implemented automatic emergency braking as a mandatory feature for all new cars sold in the US by 2029. Whether we like it or not, these safety features are all going to end up in all new and upcoming enthusiast cars. On that note, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. For me, the data gathering is not cool, and I wish features can be turned off and stay off regardless if you restart your car or not. And also, without cluttering up the dash with more and more icons. Anyways, that's it for this video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care.